This is my story about love, betrayal, dope, and forgiveness. The cataclysm in my life happened 3 years ago. I was quite a happy husband. At the time of this fool, I was 30. My wife was 28. We've been married for 5 years. The wife's full name is Clarissa. I call her Laura. His wife's father was a fan of the thriller Silence of the Lambs in his youth, or rather the main character Clarissa Starling. She was played by Jodie Foster. Father-in-law took a girl as his wife, like 2 drops of water, similar to Jodie Clarissa. When my daughter was born, she was given a foreign name. Laura looks like her mother. That is, Jodie Foster is almost one-on-one. However, the wife has a pile of light brown hair, with the transition to a blonde hair in a short square, and gray eyes. Laura's character is light, sociable, with a small amount of exaltation. Like any beauty, she loves attention to her from others. She loves compliments from men, like an ice cream with strawberries. Yes, she had a tendency to flirt lightly, but for 6 years of our relationship, Laura has never crossed the red line of loyalty, and has not given me a reason to be jealous. However, she has one unpleasant feature. When Laura takes a little more alcohol on her chest than her dose, she can turn on a bitch. Roman. Well, I'll praise myself a little bit. I'm interesting to girls. I work as a foreman in a large construction corporation. I earn normally. I actually have a university diploma, but I also like to work with my hands, so I often work part-time on different left-handed shabashki. Laura works in the financial unit of a private enterprise in the service sector. We live in our own 3-room apartment, bought on a preferential mortgage. Thank God we managed to arrange it. We don't have children and our own car yet. We have love. Laura doesn't have complexes during our pleasures. She loves to spoil me with all kinds of lace underwear and dressing gowns. My wife has a properly folded figure without excesses and flaws. This beauty likes to show off on me from above. Loves to give blowjobs, looking into my eyes. I eat orgasms with my wife's mouth in a high. But life can be a cruel bitch. 3 years ago, a complete pussy flew in my country. My previously rather complimentary environment was divided into supporters and opponents. I found myself in a minority camp. First quarreled with colleagues and superiors, and then he gnawed at the black with his parents. My mother is a psychiatrist. Yes, the most natural, with many years of practice. She has an authoritarian personality, so she has a lot on my ears and brain. I got out of the rivet. The father is not something that the cumbler can keep his mother's runs, but in this conflict he passively took the side of his mother. Thank God, Laura was at zero for politics. Otherwise I would probably have gone crazy. But my wife managed to throw me a scum from where I didn't expect. Her cousin invited us to her birthday party at a restaurant. For Laura, it was an opportunity to go out into people, show off, dance, capture the attention of males, flirt. It always happens like that with us. The wife knows her dose and keeps herself within the limits of decency. Laura started preparing for drinking in a couple of weeks. I bought a new rather provocatively open dress with a bunch of cuts, new underwear, stockings with elastic bands. In front of the restaurant, I went to the beauty salon and turned in front of me as a fierce beauty. My wife was full of expectations and positive emotions, and I was in a bad mood. I didn't want to talk to anyone and pretend to be a funny kid. That's why I immediately lay down on the cognac at the table. Laura drank martini. There were a lot of people in the restaurant besides our company. At first, Laura attracted the attention of her friends, and when the dances began, she went away. I was sitting darkly at the table, and my wife was dancing. After how many hits I noticed that my wife dances slowly with a pretty beautiful frere, and she hung her hands on his neck, pressing her body, and his hands were on her back. It seemed to me that they were looking in my direction behind some dick and laughing. When she returned to the table all overjoyed and sat down next to her, I began to feel sick. And, what kind of frere is this? Do I need to be worried? She was surprised. Ramika, why are you jealous of me? Oh, how interesting. This is Maxim. Our companies cooperate and we know each other well. Maybe another time I would miss this shit without attention, but not now. I didn't like the way you hung on it. And Larka, apparently, had already rolled the right dose, and began to turn on her bitch. You know, darling, you're not in the mood today. It was just a dance. Hide your jealousy under the bench. I'll continue to dance and have fun. Got it? She looked into my eyes with a challenge, and I accepted it. No, my honey, now you'll take your handbag, and we'll go home. The wife hummed, switching to obvious counters. What a bodin', the evening has just begun. I'm not going anywhere. If you want, go home alone, and don't spoil people's mood with your gloomy face. I stretched out in a smile. Darling, do you want contras? You already have them. I got up, and slightly wobbling from the drink, went to the exit, and my wife didn't follow me. I took a taxi and found myself alone in my apartment. Alcohol didn't let me get on my nerves. I undressed, fell into bed and fell asleep. As far as I know from conversations with acquaintances, a hangover after an evening drunkenness catches up with them in the morning. It's different for me. I woke up at the beginning of the third. My head was splitting, my bottom and top were asking to go to the toilet. Going to the toilet, I made myself an ups and went to the bedroom. Only now I found out that my wife is absent in the apartment. What kind of henya? I took the mobile phone and dialed its number. It's a bummer, my wife turned off her phone. Where the hell did the devil's wife go? But my condition at that time imperiously demanded to press my face to the pillow. I decided that I would figure it out in the morning and fell asleep again. I was woken up by an alarm clock. It was a working day. I went to drink my dose of morning coffee. Laura didn't come back. I got dressed and sat down on the ottoman and hung at the front door in the corridor. I have 4 phone numbers in my memory from our yesterday's company. I decided that the situation with Laura is critical and the wife needs to be found. Of course, she could spend the night at her sister's, and she could, for example, get to the hospital, to the police. Who the fuck knows where else he could have taken her? There was no inbox on my phone. I dialed all 4 numbers in order. The calls went, but no one picked up the phone. I held the calls until the call operator was off. All 4 people are normal people and we have quite friendly relations. A doubt guess flew in my head. God, did my wife give me horns? Well, what else could be the reason for their silence? I looked at the clock. It turned out that time has its own laws. I had to leave 40 minutes ago to be at work on time. I put my phone on the bedside table and bent down to tie the shoelaces. At that moment, there was a sound of the front door lock opening. Clarissa was on the doorstep. It seems that she didn't expect to see me at home and was very surprised and scared. I didn't really have time to consider it. Laura turned around and rushed down the staircase. I was rushing after her, but stopped not to chase my wife in the yard. And then what if I set up? Do you want to arrange a disassembly? I locked the door of my apartment with the key and went to work. My thoughts revolved around my wife's antics. It seemed that she expected that I had already gone to work. After all, she knows my ritual on weekdays. There was no light in the apartment, and our hallway doesn't shine outside. I was riding in a minibus and felt completely fucked. My wife was obviously fucking. At work and with my parents. And what was I supposed to do? How to get out of this psycho? The decision was to become a mother's patient. I'll chop all these tails in one fell swoop. I'll disappear. A couple of years ago, my employee, having worked his working day normally, left the house and disappeared. Absolutely. Like a canal into the water. It was a terrible conflict. They were looking for it. There was an investigation. They never found him, and he still hasn't appeared. My superiors and all the relatives of the man. The police took out all the brains with suspicions of murder. This option of revenge seemed very sweet to me at that moment, and I had nowhere to disappear. My former colleague recruited a small Sabbath brigade and built Orthodox churches in neighboring regions. I visited his last facility and had an offer to join them. I liked this idea then. Temple construction is very interesting to me as a specialist. I got out of the minibus without reaching my stop. The temple under construction was located 50 kilometers from the city. I got to him by suburban bus, which goes from the bus station, but makes several stops around the city. It turned out that the city video cameras would not track me. I got off the bus on the highway and walked another 3 kilometers on the road. I found myself in another world. Only my friend Vlad knew me in it. I told him my story. He hired me without documents under the Sabbath hiring scheme. I didn't have a passport, a mobile phone, or even a salary card. I didn't shine anywhere. Vlad opened a bank account for me in the name of one of his relatives to store my salary. I trust him. I started working with stone and masonry. I'm interested and not getting used to it. I was placed in a private house rented in the village. Actually, almost all employees went home to the city. The 3 of us lived in the house, me and 2 other people. The men have something similar to my story. Their wives left me with divorce and housing. Saint and Pasha became stone bachelors and hid religion. Oh, how they brainwashed me with their sermons, women servants of the devil. In short, I'm stuck in this nowhere, and no one. This went on for 2.5 years. Maybe I would have been hanging outside the world. But the case brought me to a real priest. Father Oleg supervised the construction of the temple from his office. Although he wears a cassock, he is still a farmer in life. Kindred soul. Once we sat behind the Ryomaha, discussing construction matters, and he made out of me the story of my downshifting. And these guys know how to hook on the living. My mind was immersed with his phrase, Roman, Jesus Christ is forgiveness. Come back home, you've had enough of living as a bum. Deal with the situation, forgive me if you need to let go and live a normal life. 6 months later, we finished our work at the facility, and Vlad let me go for a month before the next project. I'm back home. My passport and other documents were in the chest of drawers. There was even my work record book with a mark, fired of my own free will. I thought the police should have seized the documents of the missing person. My mobile phone was lying on a coffee table in the living room and was charged. It's time for me to appear on the displays of relatives. I decided to start by calling my father. He is closer to me. I dialed the number. My father answered. Yes, who is it? His voice trembled noticeably. Hi, Dad. It's me, Roman. At that end, the sound of a swallowed coma from the throat was heard. Son, are you alive? Where are you now? I'll come right away. Of course, I wanted to see my father, but first I had to face my mother and wife. Dad, let's put it off for the evening. I have to talk to Mom and Clarissa now. He didn't stay silent for long. Roman, let's make an intrigue. I'll call my mother, and she's Laroshka. Prepare your ass, two shepherds are about to fly to you. I relaxed. At least everyone is alive and well. There was a bottle of cognac Ascanelli 5 years in the bar. I think Laura and I opened it 4 years ago. I poured 50 grams for myself. I didn't sleep well for the last 3 nights and now, stretched out on the couch, I just fell asleep. I was woken up by some sounds. I opened my eyes. My wife was kneeling in front of me. Her hands, clasped in her fingers, were raised to her mouth and covered the bottom of her face. Her whole body was shaking from sobbing. Tears were rolling from the huge eyes. She tried to say something. I could only figure it out while sobbing, Ramashka. Darling, sorry. I moved my eyes farther around the room. My mother was sitting in the chair opposite, but this one looked like Medusa Gorgon. She burned me with a harsh look and a question spoken in syllables. You where? I was slaying. God, how nice these counters with her were to me. In the church of the Lord, she barked directly. Stop messing, otherwise I'll take you to the mental hospital. My face was high from this voice. Mom, aren't you afraid that I'll brain up your colleagues? I'm normal. I built an Orthodox church in a neighboring village. Mommy, apparently, realized that you can't take me with a jump. Okay, sorry. Let's tell us everything. Laura, please calm down and sit next to Roman. I reached out to my wife and helped her sit next to me on the couch. Her huge eyes were burning with plea and love. I told them the story of my world. Matushka summed up. The apple didn't roll far from the apple tree. You're as much a jerk like your father and my father-in-law. I'll tell my husband not to doubt that you're his son. It was interesting. Mom, what did Dad have doubts about? Mama got out. You'll give birth to your own, then you'll find out. They told the story of this world together. Yes, Laura was very angry with me in the restaurant at that time. Took over the martini and gave me a horn with that handsome guy. When she woke up in the morning, she was terrified and afraid to meet me. When we met at the door, my wife couldn't find anything better than just to jerk. I didn't come home in the evening. She called my colleague back from my mobile phone and found out that I wasn't at work. Lara decided that only her mother-in-law could help her and drove her to my mother. She told me about what happened last night. And mother, well, definitely from a mental hospital. Instead of dismembering the cheater, said that I had a hereditary fool. I'll wander and come back. She persuaded Lara not to contact the police. Then my father went to my company and issued my calculation on his own. It turned out that the mother in her youth had a flight from her father. He forgave her and they had a normal family. She told Lara that she would persuade me to forgive her after my return. Lara moved in with my parents, and all this time she lived with them. Every Saturday they went to church and asked God to enlighten me. I was struck by this story and asked a question. Well, okay, I'm back. And what would you do if I stayed in my nowhere? Mom hummed. Don't be smart. Where would you go? And, in general, buddy, you have accumulated sperm in 3 years, haven't you? I want grandchildren. Laroshka has 4 halves today. I kissed my wife on the lips, and we forgave each other. Mother rolled to her job. Well, Clarissa and I had something to do in our bed.